Welcome to Caribbeanus at Home. So today we're looking at making some pancakes for Pancake Day. So we're going to have a little sort of recipe here. So I've got everything laid out here that you're going to need for these pancakes. So you're going to need a bowl and a whisk, some scales. So here I've got 300 ml of milk, 400 grams of plain flour, around 10 grams of melted butter, a couple of nice fresh eggs, and 25 grams of caster sugar. And obviously I've got some things to put on there afterwards. I've just chosen some syrup and some lemon and some sugar, but you might like some Nutella or some fruit. You know, it's pretty much a personal thing. I've also got a nice frying pan, so I'm just warming this through now. I've just lightly brushed it with some oil. And I've got one of these, a palette knife. But if you haven't got one of these, you could use a sort of spatula like this, just to move the pancakes around. So, first thing I'm going to do is pour my milk into the bowl. Okay, that's 300 ml of milk into the bowl. And to that, I'm going to add my eggs. So, remember when we're touching eggs though, eggs have got salmonella and bacteria on the outside. It's always a good idea to break them into a bowl as well, not straight into the mixture. So if you get any eggshell in there, then you've got to try and pick it out. So after we've handled our eggs, it's really important to wash our hands. Okay, so I'm just going to wash my hands. Just going to dry those. Yep, so really important to maintain our hygiene. And then after I've checked my eggs and make sure there's no shell, I'm just going to pour them into my bowl. Remember, it's not a good idea to put them straight into the milk, because if you break any shell into there, it's difficult to get it out. I'm just going to whisk those together a little bit. Only gently though, because I don't want to create too many bubbles. Then I'm going to put my sugar into that. It's 25 grams of sugar. And then I'm going to put my flour in there. Yeah. I'm not just going to chuck it in there, I'm going to sprinkle it over the surface like this. If I chuck it in there in one big go, I'm going to have lots and lots of lumps. I'm just sprinkling it over the surface. And that's a good way of being able to do that sort of thing. If you're putting flour into a liquid like that, it's a really good strategy to do this. There we go. So now I've got this nice smooth mixture. Now remember, I'm not whisking it too hard, I'm just gently sort of whisking it, because I don't want lots and lots and lots and lots of bubbles in there. Okay, now I'm going to put my butter. I'm just going to melt my 10 grams of butter and just put that in there. That will just give my pancake mixture a nice sort of buttery flavour. If you've been a bit healthy, you don't have to do that. You know, it's not an absolute that you have to put the butter in there, but it does make them really, really delicious. So after I'm happy that there's no lumps in there, it's relatively lump free, then I can pour it into my jug. If you're not quite happy that it's lumpy, but you think it's a little bit lumpy, you can always put it through a sieve or a strainer and just pour it in there. Yeah, and that'll just get rid of any lumps that you're worried about. I'm just going to leave that to go through there while I sort my pan out, because my pan's getting a little bit hot. So the next thing I'm going to do is just have a little look at my pan. I'm just going to brush that with oil. There we go. Brush that with oil. Hopefully now my mixture's all gone through my pan. If it hasn't, I can take the back of a spoon and I can just push those last bits through. And I'm looking for a nice smooth batter. Yeah. There wasn't really any lumps in this, but if you do end up with a really lumpy mixture, that's just something you can do. You can just sit it there. Now, really speaking now, it's better to leave this for about half an hour before you use it. But I haven't got time for that during this presentation. But I would normally leave this now for a little while, just to sort of sit there and just, you know, relax for a bit. So now, once I'm happy that my pan's hot enough, And I can test that by just putting a tiny bit of a mixture in there like that, and just almost making a little mini one. Yeah, and I can see that's just about the right temperature now. And then it's just a matter of making sure your pan's well brushed and well clean. If you've got a non-stick pan, then you'll probably find this a bit easier to do. This is sort of an old-fashioned iron pan. And we just pour our mixture in there and then swirl it round a little bit like this. Then I just need to leave it set. So it's a matter of patience now and just getting the temperature right. Don't always expect the first one to come out first time, because sometimes what we need to do, we need to make one and then we might need to adjust our mixture slightly. It might be too thick or it might be too thin. The reason being is that flour can differ in quality. So although the recipe might say 300 grams, it might just alter in quality. It depends on the quality of the flour you're using as well. So it could be 300 grams of one type of flour, but it could be 310 of another type of plain flour. It just depends on the brand you're using. That's quite often a problem people have with things like cakes and pastries, especially if it's like, you know, something like choux pastry or pancakes like these. It's I'm just going to brush my knife with oil as well. That just stops it sticking. It's a little tip for you there, little chef tip. Okay, I'm just going to turn that over in a minute and we should have our first pancake in a minute. This is where when you're doing it on video, you're just hoping it's going to turn out. What I'm looking for is just for it to set on the surface there. And it starts to bubble here in the centre. When it starts to bubble in the centre, it's telling me the pancake's ready to turn over. And this is the tricky bit. And the first one's always a bit tricky because you don't know whether it's going to stick or not. And there we go. That's our first pancake. You can see it just started to stick a bit in the middle there, so that's telling me the pan needs a bit more work on it. So it's really important. If you're using a non-stick pan, then you're fine. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick up a plate like this, and I'm just going to, should we toss it, shall we? Should we have a go at tossing it? So there we are. We want to toss our pancake, so bring it over like that, and we just flick it up like that. Yeah. So bring it over to the edge of your pan, and go like that. Should we see how high we can get it? There we go. And there's our pancake. Then all we need to do is a bit of sugar, a bit of lemon, and if we wanted to, a little bit of golden syrup. And that's pancakes for Shrove Tuesday, for Pancake Day. Good luck with your pancake making.